It is nothing short of overwhelming to see such an incredible olam of people here ready and energized and excited to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah. I really feel like in this moment we could say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam Shechianu V'Kimanu V'Gyanu Lazman Hazeh, but also Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam She'asa Lanu Nes B'Makom Hazeh. That look, I know how I'm feeling in this moment, and I can only imagine how HaKadosh Baruch Hu is feeling in this moment. Look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at your children. Some of you are here willingly. Some of you I harassed the kishkas out of. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we're all here. We're all here. And we're all here for one simple reason. Because we want to learn the Ribono Shel Olam's Torah. Because we want to go on this incredible journey of Torah Sheba'al Peh. For those of us who were privileged to celebrate at last night's Siyum, an incredible thank you again to Rabbi Huda Neuberger for putting together the mother of all Siyumim. An evening that was just exceptional, uplifting, inspiring, beruchnius ubegashmius. And I think for many of us, it gave us the chizuk to begin again today. To the veterans who are back for the second cycle, or maybe it's more than your second cycle, welcome back. It was a schus to learn with you last time, and it's going to be a schus to learn with you this time. To our newer members of the DAF, Baruch haba b'shem Hashem. Welcome to what's going to become the most incredible hour of your day every single day. To learn Gemara together, to learn HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah together is nothing short of miraculous and beautiful, and I feel privileged that you're choosing to do it here. For those of you who told me, I'm just coming for today, I just want to tell you, famous last words. Famous last words. You can see there are plenty of people who said they're just coming for today, and we danced together last night after 7.5 years. But whether you're here for today, or whether you're going to be Emeretz Hashem in person shir, or picking it up on the podcast or on the website, whatever it is, the ikar is that you find a way to grow, like we spoke about last night. The ikar is that you find a way to reclaim your identity that is engraved on the celestial throne. The ikar is that we each strive to become the best version of ourselves. So Baruch haba, Shechianu V'Kimanu V'Gyanu Lazman Hazeh, Baruch She'asa Lanu Nes B'Makom Hazeh. I want to thank all of you just for being here. We will figure out what to do. I'm not sure whether it's here. We'll figure it out. Ari's on this, and he will not rest until we have a solution. But I'm sorry, you can speak to Menachem about the building. We are accepting pledges. He has his triangle on his phone. He'll be happy to swipe right afterwards. With that, let us begin. I want to just begin actually by thanking the sponsors. We have a number of sponsors for this morning's shir. Our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Teves, Shirley Elbaum, together with Avron, Sean, and Judah Elbaum and their families, in memory of their beloved husband and father, Jerry Elbaum, in commemoration of his 10th yahrzeit. The Elbaum Mishpacha has sponsored and dedicated all of the shiurim and drashos of this month. We hope that on the merit of our Talmud Torah, Jerry's neshama will have an aliyah and the family a nechama. We also thank Baruch Visha Kozlovsky for going ahead and dedicating the shir this morning in honor of Zev ben Moshe Rubinstein, Magid Shir Daf Yomi at Inyamin Moshe, for imparting his knowledge to me, as well as my host, Akiva Andrews, over 4 weeks that he was blessed to be in Yerushalayim. Just completed the Daf Yomi cycle as well. May Zev continue to learn and teach Daf Yomi ad me'ah ve'esim shanim tovos. And of course, a thank you again to Akiva Andrews, who hosted Baruch Official during those days in Yerushalayim as well. Additionally, may the learning of the first half of Berachos provide an aliyah for the neshama of Binyamin ben Shimshon, Zichrono Livracha. Yashakach, and thank you for the sponsorship. 2 additional sponsorships. I'm sorry. To thank you to Robert Lilienfeld, who has dedicated an entire week of learning this week in memory of his mother, Madeline Lilienfeld. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the neshama will have an aliyah. And another special dedication this morning to Rabbi Larry and Flo Ziffer in honor of their 45th wedding anniversary. Mazel tov. Both people don't know this. The daf is an incredible anniversary present, right? It's good for birthdays, anniversaries, any occasion. A daf yomi sponsorship is the gift that keeps on giving. So mamish, thank you, Rabbi Ziffer. Mazel tov and me'er ve'esim shanim tovos. So both say. With that, let us begin the first Mishnah in Meseches Berachos. So the Mishnah begins as follows. At what point in time do we begin to say Kriyas Shema at night? Again, the Mishnah's Gemara is going to discuss why exactly the Gemara chooses to start with this idea of Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. But at what point in time do we begin to say the Kriyas Shema at night? So the Gemara says, Misha shakahanim nichnasan lechal b'trumasan at sof ha'ashmora harishona divrei Rabbi Eliezer. So the Gemara, remember again, the Mishnah's understanding over here as follows. As much as the shaila of the Mishnah is what time do we begin to say Shema, what the Mishnah wants to try to explore is what time do we begin to say Shema, and at what point in time does the Zman for Kriyas Shema end. So the first opinion in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer says, from the time that the Kohanim go in to eat their Truma until the end of the first watch. What does that mean? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, Me'imasai korin shema ba'avim misha shakhan nichasan lacha b'trumasan kwanam shenitma'u v'tavlu v'hariv shmashan v'egia itam lecha b'truma. So we'll say, remember again, if a coin became tamei, so there are different forms of ritual impurity, different forms of tumah, but very often if a coin becomes tamei, what ends up happening is he goes to the mikvah. He can go to the mikvah by day, but nevertheless, he has to wait until nightfall, tzeisa kochavim, before going ahead and partaking of truma. So I will say to those of us who are Messiah Nida, you thought that our Zav days were behind us. Good news, right? It's Zav everywhere. Zav everywhere. I would say, so for example, it didn't come out. The way it sounded different. It sounded different in my head than when it came out of my mouth. So I will say, just so you understand, was for a simple example, a Kohen becomes a Zav, he goes to the mikvah by day, but ultimately again requires Herav Shemesh. Now what is Herav Shemesh? We'll say means literally the setting of the sun, but on a technical level, as we're going to see, Halacha L'maisa, if a Kohen becomes Tameh, he's not permitted to eat Truma. He has to go to the mikvah and really has to wait until Tzeis HaKochavim, has to wait until nightfall in order to begin again to consume Truma. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer says, the Zman of nighttime Shema begins at Tzeis HaKochavim, from the time that Kohanim could go in and begin to eat Truma, and Rabbi Eliezer also gives the ending time. What's the ending time? At Sof Ha'ashmura Harishona, until the end of the first watch. So we'll say, so we will see exactly what the first watch means. We're going to see that the nighttime is divided up into a variety of different segments. So until the end of the first watch, we'll define in the Gemara. We'll say, what I will point out over here is something amazing. If you look at Rashi for just a moment. At Sof Ha'ashmura Harishona, Rashi says, Shlish halayla ki mafarish b'Gemara. It's the first third of the night. Umisham ve'ilech aver zman. Delo mikri su zman shchiva. V'lo karinan bei b'shach b'cha. Umikamei hachinami lav zman shchiva. Leficha hakori kodim lachin lo yatzlich vaser. Now, boss, remember again, very quickly. So we know that the Torah gives us a time for Shema. What's the Torah's time for Shema? B'shach b'cha or b'kumecha. You say Shema when you go to sleep and when you get up. So everyone, all of these different opinions are bound by that biblical construct. The machlokes, the discussions we're going to see is how to define those words. So for example, Rabbi Eliezer says, people really don't go to sleep before when? Before Tzeis HaKochavim. Therefore, again, it's not b'shach b'cha. You can't say the nighttime Shema until people go ahead and go to sleep. Now, we'll discuss where the ending time at 1/3 of the night comes from. We'll get to that. But Lamaisa, that's the idea of Rabbi Eliezer. People begin to go to sleep at Tzeis HaKochavim at nightfall. That's b'shach b'cha, when you go to sleep. That's the beginning time for nighttime Shema. Now, I both say, Rashi HaKodesh over here brings up something amazing. This is actually, we were starting in Eretz Hashem a new lunch and learn tomorrow at 12:15 at the bistro, followed by mincha at 1 o'clock, where we're also going to get into some sugyas. You can speak to Jeremy Lassen, third row from these rows over here, last guy on the row. Jeremy, just raise your hand. Good. That's Jeremy. I will say so. Again, any shilas about lunch, you could see Jeremy. We're going to be discussing some sugyas from the daf. We're actually going to touch on this particular sugya because it's quite fascinating and riveting. But look at Rashi over here. Rashi says something amazing. Im kain lama korin osa bebeis hakneses. So Rashi over here brings up, Rabosai, perhaps one of the most fascinating initial discussions, which is, here we're saying that the beginning time for Shema is Seis HaKochavim. You can't really say the nighttime Shema before nightfall. Why not? Because the nighttime Shema can only be recited b'shach b'cha, when you go to sleep. Rabosai, historically, when were people davening Ma'ariv? When were people davening Ma'ariv? After really, remember again, like what we do today in shul is we didn't invent this model, right? This has been the model in Klal Yisrael again for generations, which is you daven mincha before shkia, you daven mincha before sunset, and you daven ma'ariv afterwards. As we're going to see, Seis HaKochavim is sometime after sunset. But one thing is clear is it's not immediately after sunset. So Rashi says over here, we're learning over here that you can't say Shema until, or you should not say Shema until Seis HaKochavim, nightfall, because that's b'shach b'cha. Yet in shul, says Rashi says, however, in shul, we go ahead and we recite the nighttime Shema immediately after Shkia. We're davening Ma'ariv after Shkia. So Rashi says, what's going on over here? Listen to what Rashi says. He says, Im kein lama korin osa beis haknesses, kedei la'amod betfila mitoch divrei Torah. So Rashi says something amazing. When we say Shema in shul as part of Ma'ariv, that is not nighttime Shema. That is not Kriyas Shema Shal Arvis. What is that called? What is that called? That's called learning. It's called Torah, learning Torah. And what do? We don't just want to get up and say Shemona Esrei. It's always good to have a little bit of a lead into Shemona Esrei. So we say Shema before Shemona Esrei by Ma'ariv, but that's not Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. Even though what we're davening is Ma'ariv, that's not Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. Why isn't it Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis? Why not? Because it's before Seis HaKochavim. So this is incredible. Therefore Rashi says, Therefore Rashi says, that is why we repeat Kriyas Shema again after nightfall. And Rashi says something amazing. You have to repeat Shema. Moshe and I were just speaking about this yesterday. You have to repeat Shema again after nightfall, after Seis HaKochavim. But Rashi says something amazing. All you have to repeat is what? The first paragraph of Shema. Now, both say, again, we're not going to get into it now. Tosis takes incredible issue with this Rashi. Tosis says, no, it's not true. The Kriyas Shema that we see as part of Ma'ariv, ultimately, again, is the real Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. And again, Tosis actually holds that halacha l'maisa, you don't have to repeat Kriyas Shema later on in the night. Again, we'll come back to this sugya a little bit later on in the Masechta. But again, I just want to point out over here the important construct to remember. I'll say one of the things we're going to try to do along this cycle is, first of all, Amirat Hashem, we'll be putting together review sheets. So Amirat Hashem, everyone loves getting WhatsApp messages. And I don't want anyone ever to feel left out or feel neglected. So we're going to be putting out certain chazara tools just to be able to retain certain ideas. So there are certain concepts you just have to keep in mind. Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis is governed by the biblical concept of b'shach b'cha. You say Shema at night when it's a time to go to sleep. Rabbi Eliezer says the time to go to sleep, the beginning of that time is Seis HaKochavim. Rashi says we're saying Shema of Ma'ariv before Seis HaKochavim. So what's happening over here? To which Rashi says, you're right, it's not Shema, that's called Divrei Torah. Learning. Therefore, you have to repeat Shema, says Rashi, after Seis HaKochavim. But then Rashi says something amazing, which is what? Only the first paragraph. Only the first paragraph has to be repeated, the rest doesn't. Fine, back to the Mishnah. The Chum say ad chatzos. So we'll say the Chachamim argue on Rabbi Eliezer's end time, but not on his start time. The Chachamim also agree that the beginning time for Shema is ultimately, again, from the time that the Kohanim go in to eat their truma after having gone to the mikvah, right? And waiting for nightfall. After Seis HaKochavim, they can begin to eat truma. That's the time that you can begin to say Shema. Chachamim agree with that. The Chachamim ever disagree with Rabbi Eliezer in terms of the end time. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer says that you could say the nighttime Shema until the end of the first third of the night, whatever that means, right? The Chachamim hold until Chatzos. Midnight is the end. Rabbi Gamliel disagrees also. He says, Ad She'al Amud HaShachar. No. In fact, again, you could recite Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis until when? Until Alos HaShachar. Dawn. We'll say we're going to discuss in depth all of these different times. Like what's dawn, what's the Ashmur Harishona, what's Alot. We'll get into all of this. We'll say a story. One time Rabbi Gamliel's children came home late from a chasana, from a wedding. Amru lo karinu eshma. They said, Father, we didn't yet say Shema. And Rabbi said, the story over here is they're coming home when? After Chatzos. They're coming home after midnight. They say, we didn't say Shema. Amru lo, we said to them, don't worry about it. Imlo Allah amud hashachar chayovin atem likros. As long as the dawn has not yet dawned, in other words, as long as it's not yet dawned, you still have an obligation to go ahead and say Kriyat Shema. So both say Rabbi Gamliel, the Gemara, you're going to see why the Gemara is adding in this story. This is Rabbi Gamliel's Shita, right? His position is that you could say Shema beginning Tzeisa Kochavim, nightfall, up until Alos HaShachar, up until dawn. We'll say we're going to see the definition of dawn itself is also subject to dispute. According to most opinions, dawn is 72 minutes before sunrise. As we're going to, there's the position of the Rambam, who holds that dawn is 90 minutes before sunrise. Again, we're going to get into a lot of exciting sugyas ahead of us. Rabbi Gamliel says, don't worry. I know you're home after Chatzos, after midnight, not a problem. You have until dawn to recite Shema. For Lozu Bilvadamru, Rabbi Gamliel said to his kids, not only that, whenever the rabbis say that you can go ahead and perform a mitzvah until midnight, midnight never means midnight. What does midnight mean? Mitzvasan ad shir amud hashachar. The mitzvah, whenever Chazal say until Chatzos really means ultimately again until dawn. For example, Hector chalovim ve'ivarim mitzvasan ad shir amud hashachar. Now, we're going to see exactly what to do with this phrase, because the truth is, Hector chalovim ve'ivarim means as follows. Anytime you offered up a carbon during the day, by definition, there were leftover limbs and fats. Those limbs and fats were burned on the Mizbeach throughout the night. How long do you have to burn the limbs and the fats? Ultimately, again, until Alos HaShachar. Now, what that phrase is doing there, we're going to see in the Gemara. Similarly, you have karbanos. We'll see that there are certain karbanos. Rashi says, Kigon chatos va'asham. For example, a chatos, we'll say, can be eaten for one day and the following night. So let's say I offer up my chatos on a Sunday. I can eat the chatos the whole day Sunday and the entire Sunday night. Until when? Ad sheya'ala amud hashachar. Ultimately, again, until dawn. So what's it in general? Whenever something is kosher for the night time, it's kosher for the entire night until the following dawn. If that's the case, that really you could say, going back to Kriyat Shema for just a moment, if that's the case, that you could really say Kriyat Shema shel Arvis until dawn, so then why did the Chachamim say until Chatzos? Very simple. Kedei laharchik adam min ha'avera. Rabbi say human nature is such that what? We always push the envelope. So therefore, if you tell people that they could say Kriyat Shema until dawn, what are they going to do? They're going to wait until dawn. So what do you do instead? So you go ahead and you say, you have until Chatzos. So what does that do? That hopefully encourages a certain level of vigilance until Chatzos, and ultimately try to do it until Chatzos. But if for some reason you miss until Chatzos, ultimately what? You have until Alos dawn the next day. So to Chazer the Mishnah, here's what we have. It appears that everyone is agreeing with the start time of Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis. What's the start time of Kriyat Shema Shel Arvis? The beginning? Tzeisa Kochavim, right? What the Mishnah calls Mishash Kohanim Nichnasan Le'achol B'Trumasan. So everyone is agreeing. B'Shach B'cha, you can begin to say nighttime Shema when you go to sleep. The beginning of that time is Tzeisa Kochavim. The Machlokes seems to be surrounding the end time for Shema. Rabbi Eliezer telling us until the end of the first watch, Ashmar Rishona. We'll see what that means. Chachamim telling me until Chatzos. Rabbi Gamliel telling me until Alos HaShachar. But it turns out that what Rabbi Gamliel is saying is like this. I'm not really a third shita. I'm not a third shita. What am I? I'm a modifier of this second one. That when the Chachamim said until Chatzos, they didn't really mean until midnight. What did they mean? Ultimately, again, until Alos HaShachar. They meant until dawn, but rather said we shouldn't push the envelope. Ultimately, again, they went ahead and they pushed it, which I both say tells us an incredible level of human nature. The need to create gidarim for oneself, the need to create protective boundaries in our own spirituality. The nature of man is always to walk the line. So therefore, successful living requires me to move the line. If the line is drawn between right and wrong, inevitably, I will go ahead and fall on the wrong side of that. That's why there's a need to create personal boundaries. Move back the line into the realm of that which is permitted. Therefore, even if I end up falling on the wrong side of the line, I'm still a Mirat Hashem okay. We'll say Gemara. So we'll say, remember again, the Mishnah ends off, the Mishnah begins by saying Me'emasai. Me'emasai means what? Me'emasai means from when. So the Gemara says, from when presupposes that you've already established an obligation for reciting Shema at night. Right? So meaning the normative progression of a conversation would be establish the obligation to say Shema at night, then get into the details. Amongst the details is when. So where are you coming off of, says the Gemara, that you're asking Me'emasai from when? So the Gemara says, listening to Shachris Bereisha. But say furthermore, why is Maseches Berachos beginning with a conversation about the nighttime Shema? Wouldn't it be better to begin with a conversation of what? The morning Shema, the daytime Shema. To which the Gemara says the answer to both these questions are the same. The concept of reciting Shema itself is a pasuk. Tana Akrai Kani. The Tana, the author of our Mishnah, is basing himself on a pasuk. Tichsev b'shach b'cha uvekumecha. The pasuk says when you awaken, when you go to sleep and when you awaken. V'achikatani. Shabbos say the pasuk itself begins with what? The pasuk itself begins b'shach b'cha, meaning the subject of the pasuk of Kriyas Shema begins with the nighttime Shema. So therefore the Gemara simply says all the Mishnah is doing is what? Is parroting the verse. Right? The verse begins b'shach b'cha, nighttime Shema, ubikumecha, morning Shema. So therefore subject-wise, we're beginning with Kriyas Shema shel arvis, v'achikatani. And ultimately, again, this is what the Mishnah means. Zman Kriyas Shema d'shchiva emas. When is the time for the nighttime Shema? Misha shakam mechaselecha b'trumasan. So I will say ultimately, again, therefore, the Gemara says like this. We establish the obligation for nighttime Shema from a pasuk, b'shach b'cha uvekumecha, and we begin with Ma'ariv. Why? Because ultimately, again, that's what the verse says first. Now that we've established A, that there's an obligation of nighttime Shema, and B, we're going to start with that one first because it's mentioned first in the pasuk. Then the Mishnah says, by the way, what time can you begin to recite the nighttime Shema? To which the Gemara says, Misha shekahanim nichnasin le'achol b'trumasin. V'ba yisema, yalef and b'yasa shalom. We'll say the other possibility is, why does the Mishnah begin ultimately again with the discussion of nighttime Shema before daytime Shema? We're modeling the creation of the world. Dichsiv v'yerev v'yivoker yom echad. We'll say the pasuk when speaking about creation speaks about nighttime before daytime. So too when talking about our obligation of Shema, we begin with nighttime before daytime. So the Gemara says, Ihaki, if that's the case, Seiva Diktanabo say, what about the next Mishnah? Right? What about the next Mishnah that ultimately says as follows: B'shachar mevarech shtaim lefanel va'achas lacharel be'erev mevarech shtaim lefanel shtaim lacharel lisni da'arvis bereisha. We'll say here's the problem. The next Mishnah we're going to see, coming attractions, is going to talk about the Berachos of Kriyas Shema. Right? The Berachos we recite before and after Shema. And that Mishnah says that in the morning we say 2 Berachos before Shema, 1 Bracha after Shema. And in the evening we recite 2 Berachos before Shema and 2 Berachos after Shema. But according to what you just said, where the order is out of sync. What should be mentioned first in the Mishnah? Nighttime Shema. So we'll say, it's so interesting enough, you're telling me, our Mishnah begins with a discussion of Kriyas Shema Shal Arvis, because A, B'shach B'cha Uvekumecha, the pasuk by Shema puts nighttime Shema first. Furthermore, Mibriyaso Shal Olam, creation of the world, Vayer Vayvoker, Ma'ariv, right, nighttime always comes before day. Yet the next Mishnah speaks about Birchos Kriyas Shema, discusses what? The brachos of the morning Shema before the brachos of the nighttime Shema. So what's happening? To which the Gemara says very simple. Tana pasach ba'arvis v'hadar tani b'shachris adukay b'shachris parish mili d'shachris v'hadar parish mili d'arvis. To which the Gemara says, Rabbi say, there is a certain textual symmetry. The textual symmetry is like this. We open up with a discussion of the nighttime Shema. Then ultimately, again, we speak about the daytime Shema. Once we're speaking about the daytime Shema, we do what? We finish out that discussion. So Rabbi says we're going to see the order of the Mishnayos is like this. Nighttime Shema, then a discussion of daytime Shema. Then when the Mishnah transitions into a discussion of Berachos Kriyas Shema, we pick up with the subject in which we are currently immersed. Since we're discussing daytime Shema, let's talk about the brachos of daytime Shema, and then only afterwards revert back to the brachos of nighttime Shema. So we'll say essentially the model is A, B, B, A. Right? That's how the system goes. Start with Arvis, go to Shachris. Once you're in Shachris, finish out the discussion of Shachris, and then go back ultimately again and conclude Arvis. Incredible. Amar Mar. So we'll say, let's now delve into this a little bit. Amar Mar. So we'll say, remember again, so the Mishnah says, from the time that the Kohanim, when can you begin to say Shema? From the time that the Kohanim go in to eat Truma. Michti. Kohanim emas ka'achli Truma. So we'll say, so this is very interesting, because remember, Baruch Hashem, we have Rashi. Right? We'll say, ever think to yourself, what did Rashi do? Right? What did Rashi do without Rashi? Right? We'll say, so we have the incredible gift of learning a sugya, and Rashi fills in all of the blanks. But imagine looking at this Mishnah, and the Mishnah tells you, from what time can you recite Shema in the evening? From the time that the Kohanim go in to eat their Truma. Okay, so the Gemara says, Michti, Kohanim emas kachli Truma. By the way, when do Kohanim go in to eat Truma? Right? If a Kohen was Tameh, he went to the mikvah by day. For example, we'll say if the Kohen was a Zav, that's just the easiest example. Kohen was a Zav, right? So he goes ahead, he goes to the mikvah by day, goes and eats the Truma at night. What time at night can he eat Truma? So the Gemara says, Tseis HaKochavim. It's Tseis, nightfall. And I will say, I just want to point out, we have not defined what Tseis HaKochavim is. When is Tseis? So again, we'll get into this sugya as well. So the simple answer is, pretty much from the time that the sun sets, it becomes like the wild west of halacha, right? All different opinions as to when is Tseis HaKochavim, what's Shkia, what's Ben Hashmashas, all different. So we'll get into all of this. But for right now, we'll just use the concept of nightfall, which we'll just simply define as the appearance of 3 stars. That's how we'll look at this for now. So the Gemara says, I don't understand, listening Tseis HaKochavim. To which the Gemara says, so could we just make this a little bit easier? Why don't you just say Tseis HaKochavim? Hurts. Why don't you just say in the Mishnah, what time can you recite nighttime Shema as of? What time? Tseis HaKochavim. Why don't you just keep it easy? Why do you have to start with the time the Kohanim going to eat Truma? Tush the Gemara says, Milsa agav archei kamash milon the Kohanim emas ka'achli b'Truma misha Tseis HaKochavim. Shabbos say, ultimately, again, the Mishnah often does this, where the Mishnah kind of wants to teach you multiple concepts within one statement. So the idea over here is, Shabbos say, the Mishnah is giving me a twofer, right? Number one, that when do Kohanim go in to eat Truma? After they were Tameh. When could they go in? Tseis HaKochavim. And by the way, that's also the same time for Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. So the Mishnah actually in one statement is teaching me 2 halachos. That a Kohen who is Tameh, who went to the mikvah by day, can begin to go ahead and eat Truma as of Tseis, as of nightfall. And Tseis HaKochavim is also the beginning time in which you're permitted to go ahead and recite Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. Incredible. So the Gemara says, and there's another thing that it's teaching us, Rabbi say. Remember, there are certain times where a Kohen becomes Tameh, and going to the mikvah and nightfall is only part of his process. But he still requires what? Kapara, atonement. Atonement specifically means what? The bringing of a carbon. So we'll say the easiest example of this would be, let's say, a Matzora. Right? So a Kohen who was a Matzora at Saras, ultimately again would go to the mikvah, would require Tseis HaKochavim to go and eat Truma, and halacha l'maisa, he would still be obligated to go ahead and bring a carbon afterwards. So what it tells us, the Mishnah also says, is that halacha l'maisa, you don't need to bring your carbon if you're a Kohen before eating Truma. So the Gemara says, "Va'akamash on the kabar lama akva kidisanya." We learned this in a brisa. This is incredible. Uba shemesh vitaher. So I'll say. So the pasuk says literally again, the sun will set vitaher. Now I will say, the Gemara understands this pasuk. See, when you and I would read this pasuk, we would assume that what is the pasuk saying? The sun goes down. Vitaher. Vitaher means what? Who's tar? The Kohen. Amazing if that's not how the Gemara initially, that's going to be the understanding later on, but the initial understanding of that pasuk is something dramatically different. Listen to this. So the Gemara says, "Ba shemesh v'taher." What does that mean? Bias shemasha ma'akvaso milecha b'truma. It is only the setting of the sun that prevents a Kohen from eating the truma after he's been tamei. Ve'in kaparaso ma'akvaso milecha b'truma. But the bringing of his carbon ultimately, again, does not prevent him from going ahead and eating his truma. So we'll say, so the way the Gemara is understanding the pasuk right now is as follows. Uba shemesh, the sun will set, vitaher, and the day is totally done. So we'll say, vitaher, the Gemara is understanding to mean, like the day is it's cleansed of day. It is no longer day, it's nightfall. Once that occurs, then a Kohen who was Tameh, who went to the mikvah by day, is permitted to go ahead and eat truma. Even though what? He has an outstanding carbonic obligation on his shoulders. The fact that he did not yet bring his carbon does not prevent him from eating truma that night. To which the Gemara says, Umimai, Tahayu ba shemesh bias hashemesh, v'hai taher tar yoma. How do you know that Uba Shemesh means the sun is setting, and Taher means the day is totally done, that it's now nightfall? Amud Beis, Rabbi say. Amud Beis. Dilma Bias Orahu. So we'll say maybe it means as follows. Maybe Allah Chalamaisa Uba Shemesh means the sun is coming up. Not the sun is going down, the sun is coming up. And maybe ultimately what it's saying is the morning after the Kohen goes to the mikvah, he is permitted to go out and consume truma. Umay v'taher, what does taher mean? Maybe tar gafra. So we'll say maybe what it's saying is like this. Uba shemesh, if a Kohen becomes tameh, what does he have to do? He has to go to the mikvah. He has to wait for sunrise of the following day. He has to bring his karban, and only then is he permitted to go and eat truma. To which Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel, I'll tell you why. Imkain lemakra v'yithar. If that's the case, then the pasuk should have said v'yithar. Ultimately, again, he will become tamei. He'll become tar. Look at Rashi. Imkain dehaikra v'taher lashon sivoihu nemakra v'yithar. So we'll say, if that's the case, that the Kohen was obligated to wait for the next day, for the sun to rise, and ultimately, again, to bring his carbon, it should have said v'yitar. My v'taher. What does it mean, v'taher? Taher yoma. It means ultimately, again, what? That the day will be done. I will say, if taher was going on the individual, that it should have been phrased as a tzivui, as a command. V'yithar. And the Kohen shall purify himself. V'taher is a de facto statement. It's going on what? It's going on the day itself. Uba hashemesh, the sun will set. V'taher, and the day will fundamentally conclude. So the Gemara says, "My v'taher tar yom amri inshi," like people often say, "E arav shimsha v'idki yoma." The sun has gone down and the day has finished. So I will say, amazingly enough, so just so meaning the ikar over here is not the kohanim, right? I mean, no offense, right? The ikar is always the kohanim, right? I will say, but the idea over here is the Mishnah is coming to teach me that the zman for kriyas shema says hakohavim. But just tangentially, the Gemara teaches me another halacha, which is that when a Kohen becomes tamei, in order to eat truma, what does he need? He needs to go to the mikvah that day, wait for the sun to go down, right, for nightfall to occur, then he can eat truma. Even though what? He still has an outstanding carbonic obligation on his shoulders. He is still permitted to go ahead and eat truma that night. Why? Uba hashemesh v'taher. I will say, what's ultimately against? What's the meaning of that pasuk? Uba hashemesh v'taher is ultimately the sun will set. V'taher is not going on the person. V'taher means what? The day is totally done. Well, so I'll just tell you, there's a beautiful concept that's brought down by the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, that before reciting Kiddush on Friday night, a person should recite the phrase Uba hashemesh v'taher. Because Rav said, ultimately, again, that phrase has another deeper meaning. Uba shemesh, as soon as the sun goes down and the day is over, v'taher, a brand new day begins. A brand new day begins. And that brand new day begins in a state of tara. Whatever I did yesterday, the tumah of yesterday, Rabbi say, does not follow me into today. I would posit, not that I'm one to be Mosef on the Baal Shem Tov, I think we should say it every day. Every day. Uba shemesh, yesterday was yesterday. The mess ups of yesterday, the mistakes of yesterday are yesterday. Uba shemesh, as soon as the sun goes down and the day ends, v'taher. I'm a new person, new beginning, new tara. But ma'arava, so the Gemara says in Eretz Yisrael, hadra bar of Shila, lo shemi yavu. So we'll say in Eretz Yisrael, they didn't hear this drush Rabbi of Shila, and instead they said as follows, Uboy le mi boy hai. Instead they asked the following question. So hi uba shemesh biashmashahu. So we'll say, do we say that when the pasuk says uba shemesh means the setting of the sun? Umay bitaher. What does taher mean? Taryam. So we'll say in Eretz Yisrael they're having the same discussion. They didn't hear the drush Rav Barav Shila, so they're going through the same motions. When the pasuk says uba shemesh v'taher, what does that mean? Ba shemesh, does that, we assume that means what? The setting of the sun. And what does taher mean? That the day is totally complete. O dilma, maybe it means something different. Bias dil dilma bias orahu umay v'taher tar gavra. But say ultimately again maybe uba shemesh means what? Not the setting of the sun, but what? The rising of the sun, right? Maybe uba shemesh ultimately means the sun is rising. Vitaher means, and the Kohen becomes tar. And what does it say? You understand, by the way, how the interpretation is dramatically different. If you understand uba shemesh means the sun is setting, vitaher means the day is done. That means that what? A Kohen could eat truma when? At night, even though he has an outstanding carbonic liability. If on the other hand you say uba shemesh means the sun is rising, vitaher, and that's when the Kohen becomes tar, what that says is he needs to wait for the new day to dawn and what? Bring his carbon, and only then can he go ahead and eat his truma. So the Gemara says, "V'hadir pashtem eraisa," and they answered from a brayso. Midiktani bebrayso, simin l'davar tzeisa kochavim. The simin I will say ultimately, I guess, what's the simin uba shemesh v'taher? That's referring to tzeisa kochavim. Shma mina bias shmashahu. But say ultimately again, therefore we understand uba shemesh means ultimately again the setting of the sun. Umay v'taher. Taher Yoma. Taher, I will say, interestingly enough, amazing enough, before you would see this Gemara, you would never think to translate the pasuk that way. I think all of us would instinctively assume Uba Hashemesh, the sun sets, Vitaher refers to the Kohen. Now the Gemara says no. Uba Hashemesh means the sun goes down. Vitaher means the day is complete. The day is done. It almost means as if like the day is cleansed of light, which means what? I'll say, what does that mean? Only Jews speak this way, right? The day is cleansed of light. What does that mean? Oh, it's nighttime, right? Ba Shemesh Vitaher means the sun goes down. We reach a state of Tzeisa Kochavim. The Kohen went to the mikvah by day. He's permitted to eat the truma that night, even though what? Even though what? He still has an outstanding what? Outstanding carbonic liability. Good. I will say, I know, but towards the end of the show, people begin to peel out. We're gonna go until about 8:50 because we're occupying. We're kind of like squatters over here for the 9 o'clock minyan. I will say, just don't leave until the end because I do want to share with you an incredible insight by Reb Tzadok HaKohen. I should have really given this at the beginning of the Masechta, but I'll do it at the end of today's share. So we'll say, let's continue. So the Gemara goes like, Amar Mar. So we'll say, now we're going to see a variety of different opinions, ultimately again, about, well, let's see it. Amar Mar. So remember again, the Mishnah says, when can you begin to say nighttime Shema? From the time that the Kohanim go ahead and eat their truma. So the Gemara says, or minhu, is that true? We have another brayso. What does the brayso say? Me'ema saikon shema ba'arvin. Rabbi say, just as an aside, I'm sure many of you have seen, ArtScroll just came out with a new introductory volume to Gemara, which explains the background of Gemara. Gemara, Mishnah, Braisos, all different, Toseftos, Tanoim, Amoraim. It's excellent, and it'll give you a brand new appreciation of Gemara, because a lot of times we say things like a Braisa, like a Mishnah, but often we don't necessarily know the distinctions between them. It's a little bit beyond our scope over here to get that done on the time. But I will say again, introductory value, I don't get a cut from this. I just want to be clear. Right? I will say it's Kedai, it'll open your eyes in such a dramatic way, because even if you have a yeshiva education, the truth is, chances are, especially if you have a yeshiva education, right? You know nothing about Mishnayos, Gemara. You know Mishnayos. You probably memorized like loads of Mishnayos. But what a Mishnah is, what a Brais is, what a Toseft is, who Tanarmar, who Maroimar. So I say that's for other people to learn. That's not for yeshiva guys to learn. I'll say, but you'll see it's incredible. Says the Gemara. Or Minu, raise a Braisa. Me'emasai koneshua ba'arvin. From when can you go ahead and say Shema at night? Misha ani nichnas lechol pito b'melach. So I'll say, when can you begin to say nighttime Shema? From the time that that a poor person goes in to eat his bread with salt. That's the beginning time for Shema. Then I will say, now what does this mean? What does this mean? So we'll say, so we'll see. Look at Rashi. Misha ani. It's in the short lines of Rashi, about 3 lines. Misha ani she'ein lo ner lahadlik b'sudaso. And I will say, now the assumption is someone who's very poor does not necessarily have candles with which to illuminate his home. As such, he goes ahead and he dafka eats, it appears when there's some level of light. That's the Havamina. I will say, the Gemara says, we're going to see this actually in Mesechus Berachos, that part of the eating experience is seeing what you eat. That's why the Gemara says a summa, a blind person, is never satiated, is never sated, right? Never has the full effect. We know this part of the eating experience is the presentation. So the Gemara says over here, when can you begin to say Shema? From the time that an ani, a poor person, goes in to eat his bread with some salt. So we'll see what this means. So the Gemara says, Atsha she'omed liftar mitoch sudaso, until the time ultimately again when he gets up, when he's finished with the suda. Shabbos is a dramatically different idea from our Mishnah, to which the Gemara says, Seifa vadai pliga amasnisin, Reisha milema pliga amasnisin. Shabbos, one thing is clear. The second part of this brayso certainly argues on our Mishnah. Why? Because this idea that the time for nighttime Shema ends when the ani gets up from his suda, that definitely argues on our Mishnah. The shaila is, does the first part argue on the Mishnah? So remember, the brayso is advancing now another opinion. The second opinion says, when can you begin to say nighttime Shema? As of when? From the time that the ani goes in to eat his meal, his nighttime meal. So is that Seisa Kochavim? Is that early in Seisa Kochavim? So let's analyze. So the Gemara says, Lo, ani v'koin chatshir. So both sides, which the Gemara says, no, ani and koin is one shear. Good news. Just a different way, Chazal saying the same thing. An ani, even an ani, only eats at Seisa Kochavim, only eats at nightfall, and therefore again, ani and koin is one shear. All right. Or minu, ask another kasha. From what point in time can you begin to say the nighttime Shema? Misha shebnei adam nichnasen lechol pitan ba'arvi shabasos. The Rabbi Meir. So we'll say another opinion now. When can you begin to say the nighttime Shema? From the time that people go in to eat their meals on Erev Shabbos. The Rabbi say, now what's the chap with Erev Shabbos? Rashi says, ba'arvi shabasos, memarin l'suda. Everyone goes quickly to eat. Why? Shakol mizum muchan. Because just remember again, you sit down to the meal on Erev Shabbos on Shabbos night with very little preparation. Why? Because everything has to be prepared beforehand. So Rabbi Meir says that when can you begin to say nighttime Shema? As of the time that people go in to eat their meal on Friday night. Okay? Chachamim say ultimately again, no, you can begin to say nighttime Shema as of when? From the time that the Kohanim go in to eat their truma. Simin l'davar, and I will say, what time do the Kohanim go in to eat their truma? Seisa kochavim. V'afapi, so I will say, this brayso just expands on the Mishnah a little bit. V'afapi shein rayi l'davar, zeicher l'davar. And even though there is no raya, in other words, I will say, we don't have an explicit pasuk that tells us that the zman for nighttime Shema is seis. But interestingly enough, we do find this scriptural allusion. What's the scriptural allusion? Quoting the pasuk over here from Nehemiah, "Va'anachnu osim b'malacha, v'chatzia machazikim b'ramachim." So we'll say the Navi Nehemiah is describing over here. We did our work, and half of us, chatzia machazikim b'ramachim, half of us were holding spears to stand guard. Me'alos hashachar at seis hakochavim. And when did we work? We worked from dawn, alos hashachar, until seis hakochavim. Now, we'll say, here's where it gets interesting. The next pasuk in Nehemiah says, "V'haya lanu halayla mishmar, v'hayom l'malacha." And at night we stood guard, and by day we worked. So we'll say, what do we get out of this pasuk? What do you get out of this pasuk? You get a definition of day. What's the definition of day, Rabbi Osai? What's the definition of day? From alos until seisa kochavim. So we'll say, if that's the definition of day, so what does that tell you? When does nighttime begin? After Tzeisa Kochavim. Shabbos says, so even though I don't have a pasuk in the Torah that tells me that Tzeisa Kochavim is the beginning of night, what I do have are two psukim of Nehemiah. Nehemiah telling us that we're working from dawn, alos, until Tzeisa Kochavim. Another pasuk telling me we're working the entire day. I put those two psukim together, and what do I get? I get a working definition of day. The definition of day is from alos, from dawn, ultimately again until Tzeisa Kochavim, until nightfall. My va'omer, so what does it mean va'omer? Maybe you would say, maybe nighttime is after sunset. Right? So maybe sunset is really nighttime. And these people working in this pasuk in Nehemiah, they were just working later. They just worked past nightfall, and ultimately again began work before daybreak. To which the Gemara says, Tashma v'haya lanu halayla mishmar v'hayom malacha. So we'll say ultimately again. Therefore, the pasuk in Nehemiah comes along and says, Nehemiah says, no. We worked by day and we stood guard at night. So therefore, Nehemiah gives us a definition of day. The definition of day ultimately again is from dawn up until Tzeis HaKochavim. Therefore, again, the beginning time for nighttime Shema b'shach b'chav is going to be as of when? Tzeis HaKochavim. Tashma. So the Gemara says, I'm sorry. Good. I'm sorry. Thank you. Da'ani ubnei adam chatshiru. So we'll say, see now remember, we've got a lot of shitos flying around over here. So we've got Nishasha Kohanim Nechnasen Lechol B'Trumasan. Right? We have the time that the Kohanim go ahead. Right? The time that the Kohanim go ahead and walk in to eat their truma, that we know is seis. Now we also have a time when the ani goes in to eat his bread with salt, and we also have the time that people go to sit down to eat their meal on Friday night. So we'll say, I might have thought that again, the time that the ani goes in to eat his meal, and the time that people sit down on Erev Shabbos is the same time. V'i amrit ani v'koin chat shi'uruhu. So we'll say, but if you say that the time of the ani, when he goes down to eat, and the time to Kohanim eat their truma is one shear, then Chachamim hainu Rabbi Meir. Chachamim Rabbi Meir is saying the same thing. El shmamina ani shi'ur l'chud v'koin shi'ur l'chud. Rather, it must be the time that the ani goes in to eat his bread, and the time that the Kohanim go to eat truma, right, must be two different times. Because remember again, they're being recorded as two distinct opinions. To which the Gemara says, lo, ani v'koin chat shi'uruhu. Ultimately, again, about the time that the ani goes to eat his bread, and the time that Kohanim go to eat truma after being tamei is in fact one time period. However, ani ubnei adam lav chat shi'uruhu. But I will say ultimately again, ani and bnei adam ultimately again is not one shear. The time that the ani goes in to go ahead and eat his amount, eat his food, and the time ultimately again that people go to eat their Friday night meal is not the same shear. So we'll say, here's what we have. Here's what we know. What I know is when the Kohanim go in to eat their truma, Tzeis HaKochavim. Right, that I know. And that's the idea espoused in the Mishnah. The Braisos are now adding in more opinions. Right? When can you begin to say nighttime Shema? From the time ultimately again that the ani goes to sit down and eat his bread. From the time ultimately again that people eat their meal on Shabbos night. So we'll say the conclusion that the Gemara has reached is we know when the Kohanim go in to eat their truma, that's seis. But this idea is to when an ani goes to sit down versus when people sit down to eat their Shabbos meal, those are two different time frames. So we'll stop over here for today in the Gemara. We will pick up Emir Hashem with this sugya. But let me just end off with one incredible piece. Well, just so those of you to have all of you here, such an incredible zechus. I will say, so Emir Hashem, we continue 5:45 tomorrow morning with Mesilas Yesharim. The daf begins itself at 5:55. We'll say, so I'll just tell you something amazing. The Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin, in his Sefer Tzidkas HaTzadik, says something amazing. He points out, many of the Sram point this out, that the first mitzvah that a bar mitzvah bachar, the first mitzvah, it's not just a bar mitzvah bachar, that a boy or a girl, when they reach the age of adulthood, the first mitzvah they have is Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. So the underlying question is, why does Shas begin with Me'emasai Kohen Shema Ba'arvin? Why is this like the first topic of Torah Sheba'al Peh? Remember again, we've just had this chus to begin the first daf of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Why is this the first topic? So the simple answer is because this is the first mitzvah that a Jew is obligated in when you reach the age of adulthood. Right? The boy becomes a bar mitzvah, a girl becomes a bas mitzvah. Remember again, you become bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah when? At night. Right? That's the beginning of the calendrical day. So therefore, the first mitzvah that a boy or girl has when they reach the age of majority is Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. Right? That's the first mitzvah. Okay, it's a mitzvah say Shazman Grama, it's not dafka the girl, but that's the first mitzvah that you could fulfill as a gadol. So Reb Tzadok says, why? Why is it that the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu structured things, that the first mitzvah I do in my adult life is Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis? And listen to the words of Rabbi Tzaddik. Rabbi said, this is mamish in the beginning of Tzidkas HaTzadik. It's incredible. In Sif Dalid, he says something amazing. He says, because the Bereisha Chashucha Tzarich Kabbalas Olmachu Shamayim Ach Af Mitoch HaChoshech V'Asichlus V'Hedra Masim. So Rabbi said, what is Kriyas Shema? Kriyas Shema is Kabbalas Olmachu Shamayim. It is the acceptance of the yoke of heaven. It's saying, Kadosh Baruch Hu, I am committed to you. I am committed to you. I am yours because I know you are mine. I know there are many expectations and many realities and many challenges and many difficulties, but I am yours. Now we'll say, what is Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis? It represents the ability to be Makabel Olmachu Shamayim, to accept a relationship with God Ba'arvis at night. Night represents difficulty. Night represents adversity. Night represents challenge. The first mitzvah we do in our adult lives is Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. I am not going to be a fair weather friend to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I am yours when it's Kriyas Shema Shel Shachris, when the sun's out and everything is beautiful and everything is wonderful. And I am yours when it's Kriyas Shema Shel Arvis. Therefore, Rabbi say, you know how the Rabbi Tzaddik reads the opening line of the Mishnah? You know, the beautiful part of being a Rebbe is you could put punctuation wherever you want. So Rabbi says, so how does the opening Mishnah read? Me'emasai korin eshma. When is the most important time to say Shema? Ba'arvin. Ba'arvin. The greatest accomplishment of the Jew is Kabbalas Olmachu Shamayim, his dedication to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even Ba'arvin. Even when life is difficult. It's easy to feel close to God when everything in life is going your way and you have all you want and all the pieces are in place. But that's not the true test of a relationship. The true test, Me'emasai korin shema, when can you see the true nature of your relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Ba'arvin. When life is difficult, when there's adversity, and you're still able to maintain that connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bosai, that's what we aspire to. And Bosai, today is our first daf of Maseches Berachos. And today is the exciting day. You know, it's got like that new Talmud Bavli smell, right? Everything is fantastic. It also helps that it's 8 o'clock in the morning, right? It's Baksha, and there's an excitement, right? There's no there's this, there's that. So we'll see, at a certain point in time, Arvin sets in. There's responsibilities, there's this, Shavosai. Our avoda. Don't think about it 7.5 years. Just today, tomorrow. Me'emasai korin shema. Shavosai, what truly tests the nature of your commitment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Not the ability to say Shema b'shachris, not the ability to show up and to be committed when it's easy and when it's convenient, but it's ba'arvin, even when things are difficult and challenging as well. We began Maseches Berachos together. I look forward to Miraz Hashem to continuing the journey with all of you tomorrow and in the days to come. Yashakach for making the commitment, whether your commitment is for today, whether your commitment is for the Masechta, whether your commitment is for Shas, that's between you and me. Right? I'm just kidding. No, that's between you and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Whatever your commitment is. But I just want to tell you what a privilege it is to be along with you on this journey for however long your journey takes you. Maybe Zochem Miras Hashem to get ourselves to the level to say Shema b'shachris, but more importantly to find the ability to say Shema ba'arvin as well. Shkoyach.